All right, time to get started. Can y'all hear me all right? See, James is here. Let's get going. Welcome to another Training Tuesday with CAMSYS. This is Chip with CAMSYS USA. And it looks like the stream just dropped. Can you guys still see the screens? There we go. Okay, just a little bit of lag there on my end. Sorry about that. All right. So today we're going to talk about some tips and tricks to help you manage multi-element fixtures, some different ways of selecting cells, and choosing which mode you want to run your fixtures in based on how you're going to use them. So to start out, when you patch your fixtures, CAMSYS is going to go in and take a multi-element fixture, and by default it's going to give it a single head number. What you end up with, as these are 25 cell fixtures, is you're going to end up with dot cells. So basically head 1 is the entire fixture, and then it has cell 1.1, 1.2, so on and so forth. By default, these fixtures are going to open up in a duplicate element mode. What that does is it treats the light in sort of a simple mode. It makes it easy for users that don't need to necessarily worry about all of those subcells, but only really need to worry about using the light as a whole. What you can do with that is we can grab our fixtures, put them at full, put them all in the same color. And if you look at your programmer, you'll notice that the only cells that are populated is the first cell of the fixture. What that's doing is it's duplicating, just as the name implies, those elements. All the other elements of the fixture are duplicating what the first cell is doing. This makes it really easy for novice programmers, and it also makes it very easy for people that just don't need to worry about all of those different cells. You can still run effects through them, and you can still control individual cells. So if we were to toss an effect on here real fast, you can see that we still have access to all of the cells. Should still have access to all of the cells. There we go. You can still run them like you would any other multi-element fixture. It just makes programming a little bit easier if you're not going to worry about those specific individual cells for each light. To access the individual cells, you have several options. You can come in and grab all of them, and then you can do a dot syntax. So you can say 1 through 25 dot 6 through 10 at. And what that should give you is cells 6 through 10 on each fixture. You can record these to groups. So we can come in here, make those amber, make those green. So you can do complex selections still in duplicate element mode. Like I said, the only difference is that it represents the cells differently in the programmer. The other mode you can run them in is independent element mode. The advantage of independent element mode is it's going to put information in the programmer for each cell every time you bring up that fixture. So to change it to independent element mode, you can come into patch. You see we have our nexus here. And this last column, you might need to scroll to the right depending on the size of your screen and what resolution you're running at. But the very last column in your patch screen in view heads is independent elements. You can simply grab whatever fixtures you want to run in independent element mode, change them to independent. And now, if we grab our fixtures and we put them at full, you'll see that just with a simple at full command, every cell is represented in the programmer. Obviously, we haven't given it any color, so there's still some color missing, but intensity-wise, it's all there. This allows you to do some more complex things. If you're going to do complex pixel mapping or you're going to do very specific cell selection, we'd recommend you run it in independent mode. Again, you can add effects to them just as you would any other time. We can grab our fixtures, add an effect. Just going to go with a simple 2 color. Now when you add an effect to a multi-element fixture, it's going to pop up this box. It's going to ask you, how do you want to use the elements? Using it in duplicate element mode, it's going to treat the entire fixture as one big fixture. You see that each light is doing the same thing across all of the cells. Basically, it makes it one light out of all 25 cells. If we add a different effect, same effect, but choose include elements this time, what it's going to do is it's going to treat each cell as its own fixture, and it's going to scroll that effect through all of your lights. You have all the same controls you'd have with the regular effects generator as far as parts and segments. So if we wanted to do 5 parts and do, say, 2 segments, so you can still shuffle up the effect in any way that you think you might want and get really cool chases out of it. And then the last option you're going to get when you add an effect is the include elements synced. What include elements synced is going to do is it's going to do the same as include elements, but it's going to preset your parts to break it up into each fixture doing the exact same thing. So that way you can get the same chase across all of your fixtures. Again, you have parts and segments just like you would anything else. You can change the direction of it. If you want it to go backwards or forwards, or center in or center out. And all of these effects can be stored just like any other effect in the desk. If we wanted to bring that back, there's our red and blue effect. Another advantage of running things in independent element mode is if you took the time to build a grid, so you have your layout, your output view plan, and put a grid together with your fixtures in it. You can see these fixtures are represented by a dot number. If we turn the grid back on, you can see each cell, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, so on. What we can do is we can actually stamp out shapes. So if we were to put an X by selecting these cells here, clicking in another cell and another fixture is going to stamp that X across all of those fixtures. Once you have something you like, you can actually straight from this grid, you can save it to a group. So if we were to finish this out to where all of our fixtures were X's, stamp this out across all of our fixtures. Oh, I missed it. Stand by. There we go. We'll just do the top row for time. If I wanted my top row to be X's, if you hold down your shift key, this top soft button is going to change to make group. Once you click that, you're going to see it'll say in the command line recorded group number 3. Now if we come into group number 3, you'll see there's a new group here. We grab it, There's our X's. This is a really fast way to do eye candy stuff or graphics or even text if you wanted to. So we could grab another set if we wanted to make, say, a heart. Make our heart on one fixture. Click a cell on the next lights. There's our heart. And then again, we can go make group. Now in our group window, we have a group for our X's. We can make our green X's, and then we have a group for our hearts. And we can do some hearts. Very cool, very fast way to do some really, what would be complex and time-consuming maps or images within your lights. These will work the same as anything in queues, so if we were to record these to a queue, I already had a few built, so we can bring this fader up. You can see. Yeah, switch you guys over to a big viz here. There you go. You can see as we play through this, our lights are going to morph and change and switch into those shapes and those patterns that we set. Fade time on that one. Let's put a 3-second fade time on it. There you go. Some of the other syntax that you can use to select your fixtures. If I wanted the first or the second row of each set of lights, I could go 1 through 25 dot 6 through 10. And now you'll see I have one row of fixtures. If I wanted the next row, I could do 1 through 25 dot 11 through 15. And now I could have the second row of my lights. You can do this in pieces too. If you only wanted the top row of the top set of fixtures, you can do 1 through 5 dot 1 through 5 at full and make them blue. You can call up chunks or segments of the fixtures at will. When you're in independent mode, adding effects doesn't change. It's the same as when you're in duplicate mode. If you add an effect, if you were to put a color effect, say 3 color, red, white, and blue, and we include our elements, you'll see that our effect is now playing across all of our elements. And again, we have all the power of the effects generator behind it. So if we wanted to change the math, change the crossfade, we could. You make all sorts of different types of effects. Without going too far into pixel mapping, which is tomorrow, or sorry, next week's topic, the grid is very easy to lay out if we wanted to make a new grid for our fixtures. So you can select from the grid. We can go through and set a grid size. So we have 5x5 fixtures laid out in a 5x5 grid. And if we wanted a 1 pixel gap between them just to make it a little bit easier to read, it's as simple as doing a little bit of math. So 5 times 5, 25, 4 dead spaces. So we would do a 29 by 29 grid. One key thing when you're making this grid is to turn the multi-head option on encoder D. That way the grid recognizes all of those subcells. Otherwise it'll see each fixture as a number, as a box or a pixel, versus all 25 cells as their own box or pixel. So now it's as simple as typing in the head numbers. You'll see when we put the head number in, it'll stamp the fixture into the grid. One note about this, currently Magic Q recognizes squares, lines, and some web layouts that are built into the head profiles. For anything that's complex, like a BI or a Maverick MK3 wash, you may need to go in and manually place the cells within the grid to make them match what's on the fixture. This can be done just by turning off. You can either turn off multi-head and do it cell for cell, or you can try to stamp it out in a square and see how it matches reality. But you can do, if you turn off multi-head, you can do single cell. So if I wanted 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, you can put single cells wherever you need them based on your rig or your needs. Removing from the grid is as simple as selecting them and hitting remove. Turn multi-head back on and finish this grid out. So if I did 2, 3, 4, 5. I think you guys get the idea. 6, 7. Sorry about that. Forgot to switch you guys back. You guys switched back over to the big screen. So all I was doing was selecting the grid here and typing in the appropriate head numbers. 12, 13, 14, 15, so on. There we go. Now you can see it nice and big. And 24 and 25. There we go. Now if we turn the grid off, we bring our fader up. You'll see there's our fixtures represented in the grid. And again, we can select directly from this grid and make whatever shapes we want go across all these fixtures. You can do multiple sets of stamps within one shot. So here we can do a big X. Oops, accidentally clicked one wrong fixture. Like I mistyped one. Go. There's our big X. So that's a few tips and tricks to get you started, to get you going with multi-element fixtures. A lot more fun will be had next week with the pixel mapping half of this. We'll be getting you up to this grid, and then we'll be showing you how to use the pixel mapper, also how to use the group grids, the pixel map fixtures, without actually having to patch a full pixel mapper and build a giant grid. One more thing about the grid while we're here, though, is once you have your grid built, you can choose this option to arrange in Viz. Pick which direction you want them to face and give them a spacing. So let's just do a 0.25 spacing and hit enter. And you'll see in our Viz, it's taken that grid and it's placed those fixtures accordingly with a 0.25 spacing. It's a good way that once you build your grid, you don't have to rearrange all those fixtures in the viz necessarily to get everything exactly where you want it. You can actually populate the viz based off of that grid. If we decide that's too wide, we can always come back in here and rearrange them in the viz. Add a 0.1 spacing. There's our spacing there. And then we can always obviously rearrange these manually if we wanted to. So if we wanted to go to patch, UViz 1 through 5. We can move these down and stack our grid back up. 5, 10. Oops. 11 through 15. There we go. 15 through 20. And 21 through 25. And there we've recreated our grid in Viz without the headache of having to space each one individually. So now if we try our Q stack out, see, everything matches. Our Q's play back as expected. So just a quick recap because some people came in a little late. We had talked about how when you first patch your fixtures, they're going to be in what's called duplicate element mode. What duplicate element mode does is it takes the first cell of the fixture and references that to give the entire fixture color. So if we put them back into duplicate element mode, we grabbed our fixtures, we put them at full, and we made them red. When we look at our programmer, the only thing populated in the programmer is information for the first cell. That first cell is referenced to all the other 24 cells that are blank here. The fixture is going to act like one giant light until you tell it not to be. No matter what color we change it or what we do, you see that in the viz, all of the fixtures are changing color. But in the programmer, it's still just the first cell that's referenced. Again, this is great if you're, say, at a festival or you're at a club, and generally you're going to use your fixtures, especially something like a wash light, like I said before, the MK3 or a BI or something like that. Generally, you're just going to use it as a wash light. Being in duplicate element mode will make your life a whole lot easier. It makes it easier to read your programmer window. It makes it easier to program because you know that if you grab those fixtures at full, make them red, the whole fixture is going to turn red just like you'd expect. And then if you wanted to do something more complex, you'd likely want to come into your patch, find the independent element column at the end of the patch screen. Again, you might need to scroll to the right depending on how big your screen is or which console you're on. It might be off the edge of the screen. But scroll all the way to the right in the patch screen for those fixtures and set them to become independent element. Now, if we grab our fixtures, put them at full, make them a color, if we look at our programmer this time, you'll see that now every single element of that fixture is populated. There's information there for everything. You're individually telling each cell, you be at full and you're going to be green. And this lends itself much better to people that want to do the more complex pixel mapping and the more intricate programming. Things like our little smiley faces and hearts here. So, any questions? Be happy to take them. And we have a couple other people in the chat here that can answer some questions too. quite a bit of lag in this. Can I demo stamping out again? I sure can. All right. So let's go to our output screen. Look at the grid that we just made. When you turn off view grid mode, your grid is going to automatically fill the whole screen. It's a nice way to work. It's also going to give you feedback on colors and shapes. You see, if we bring our fader up, it's going to give you colors and shapes. So it's a good place to work when you're working with lots of pixels. It lets you manage those pixels without thinking about too many numbers and too much weird syntax to get a hold of individual cells. What you can do here is you can grab single cells. You can also grab groups of cells. So if we wanted to do an X, we draw our X out on one fixture, and then we go through and click one of those cells on the other fixtures. And you'll see it stamping out that X on all of those lights. Added a couple extra cells in there. Let's try that again. Not clicking very straight today. X is down this way. There we go. Solid color. You see that we have X's for each light now. What we can do from here is we can hold down Shift while we're in our grid. There's a button up top that says Make Group. If we make a group out of this, you see it says Recorded Group 5. Now you'll see we have a group 5 that is those X's. Oh, not if the window's in the way, we're not going to see it. There we go. So there's our green X's. Earlier we made another one that was the top row. If we grab the top row of X's and made them blue, you'll see now we have blue X's across the top. This can be done with any shape, with any set of fixtures. If we wanted to do other shapes, if we wanted to do a smiley face. And now every time we click out, we'll stamp out a smiley face. Go. Lost audio from Brett. Did everybody else lose audio? Okay. All right, audio's back. Cool. All right. So any other questions? Stamping's a great way to get cool, X's and O's. And the other cool thing you can do with it is you can use these groups in combination with other groups. So let's make another group there. If we wanted to do all of our fixtures in blue and then grab all of our shapes here. And make those white, those white, those white. That's my hearts. Just grab our hearts, our smiley faces, make them white. We can put those over a blue background. We can also run effects within these groups. Build our X's one more time here. Because we're in independent mode, the effects will run just on the cells we currently have selected. Oh. Grab this group, put it at full. And again, we can come into our color effects. Let's just do 2-color. Red, white, fluid elements. You'll see now the effect is just playing across those cells. And again, we can manipulate the entire fixture and put a background color on there. So we kind of have a two-layer thing we can do here. We can do the background color, and then we can do the layers and shapes. Your stamps are only recorded groups. Yes, stamps are only recorded groups. So when you create the stamp by clicking, all it's doing is it's going to store a group of those currently selected cells. That's done by holding the shift key, and then this button up here is going to change to make group. Once you've done that, we've recorded group 8. Now if we come in here and grab group 8, you'll see that it re-grabs that V that I just made. Any other questions? All right. All right, well, I guess we'll wrap this up. This video, just like the other ones, will be available after the fact. Once Facebook processes it and puts it up, it should be available on the CAMSYS Facebook page. Next week, Brett will be doing pixel mapping. So he'll be building off of what we've learned today and what we've done today as far as building the grid, and he'll show you how to do much more complex and advanced things with pixel mapped effects, playing back video on a grid, playing back images, and things like counters and text and things like that. So make sure you come back same time next week on Tuesday and see what he has to show you. Thank you very much. Have a good day.